My name is Robert Thompson. I'm 72 years old, and for most of my life, I believed that keeping the peace was the same thing as being a good husband. I was wrong. This story isn't about anger. It's about the moment I finally stopped being quiet. My mother, Eleanor Thompson, turned 84 last March. She's the kind of woman who never asked for anything. She raised me alone after my father died in a factory accident when I was 9. She worked as a seamstress during the day and cleaned offices at night. She never missed a single parent-teacher meeting, never let me go to school with holes in my shoes, and somehow still managed to save enough for my first semester of college. Even after I got married, she never once told me how to live my life. She respected my wife, Linda, from day one. But respect was never returned. Linda and I have been married for 43 years. We have 2 children, a son named Michael and a daughter named Sarah. On the surface, we looked like any other retired couple living in a quiet suburban neighborhood. We had a 3-bedroom house, a small garden, and enough savings to live comfortably. But behind closed doors, the balance of power had shifted years ago. Linda had always been strong-willed. In the beginning, I found that attractive. But as the years passed, her strength turned into control. She decided where we vacationed, how we spent money, and even which friends we kept. I told myself it was easier to go along with her than to argue. That was my first mistake. When my mother called me in early April and said the doctor had advised her not to live alone for a while because of her blood pressure and balance issues, I didn't hesitate. "Mom, come stay with us for 2 weeks," I told her. "The guest room is ready." There was a long pause on the other end of the line. "Are you sure, Robert? I don't want to be a burden." "You could never be a burden," I replied. When I told Linda that evening, she didn't look up from her phone. 2 weeks?" she asked. "Yes. She's not well." Linda finally looked at me. "Fine. But she's not staying in the guest room. That's where my sister stays when she visits. Your mother can use the den. There's a pull-out couch." I should have said something then. I should have told her that my mother was 84 years old and deserved the most comfortable bed in the house. But I didn't. I just nodded. My mother arrived on a Thursday afternoon. She looked smaller than I remembered. Her hair, once dark and thick, was now pure white and thin. She walked slowly, leaning on a cane I had never seen before. I helped her inside and carried her small suitcase to the den. Linda didn't come out to greet her. That first night, I made up the pull-out couch with fresh sheets and an extra blanket. My mother sat on the edge of the bed and smiled at me. "This is more than enough, Robert." "Thank you." The next morning, I woke up to the sound of voices in the kitchen. I came downstairs to find my mother standing near the counter, still in her nightgown, looking uncomfortable. Linda was pouring herself coffee. "Mom, what's wrong?" I asked. Linda answered before my mother could speak. "I told her the guest room is off-limits this weekend. My sister might come. She can sleep on the floor if she wants. There are extra blankets in the closet." My mother looked at me with the same gentle expression she used when I was a boy and had scraped my knee. "It's all right," she said softly. "I've slept on floors before." I stood there in my pajamas, unable to form words. Every instinct told me to defend her, but I stayed silent. I told myself it was only for a few days. I told myself confronting Linda would only make things worse. That night, I watched my 84-year-old mother slowly lower herself onto an old air mattress on the floor of the den. She didn't complain. She didn't ask for help. She simply folded her hands on her chest and closed her eyes. I went back to bed and lay awake next to my wife. I kept replaying the image in my mind. My mother on the floor, her small body barely making a shape under the thin blanket. For the next 11 days, this became our new normal. Every morning, I helped my mother off the air mattress. Every evening, I watched her struggle to get back down. Linda never offered the guest room. She never asked how my mother was feeling. She simply acted as if this arrangement was perfectly reasonable. I started noticing other things too. When my mother tried to help in the kitchen, Linda would say, "It's fine, Eleanor. Just sit." You'll only slow me down. When my mother wanted to watch her favorite old movies in the living room, Linda would change the channel without asking. Small things, quiet dismissals, death by 1,000 cuts. I stayed silent through all of it. After my mother left, I didn't bring it up with Linda. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't even look at her differently, at least not where she could see it. Instead, I began to watch. I watched how she spoke to my sister on the phone. I watched how she treated the mailman. I watched how she had slowly erased my mother's presence from our lives over the years. Never displaying her photos, never inviting her for holidays, never asking about her health. 3 weeks after my mother returned home, I made a decision. I called my lawyer, Mr. David Reynolds, a man I had known for 20 years. We met in his office on a rainy Tuesday morning. I didn't go into dramatic detail. I simply told him the truth. I want to protect my mother, I said, and I want to do it quietly. Over the next 6 weeks, I made several changes. I transferred the deed of our house into a trust, the Eleanor Thompson Living Trust. My mother was named the sole trustee. I moved most of our retirement accounts and investments into accounts that only I could access. I left the joint checking account untouched. I didn't want Linda to suspect anything until it was too late. I never told her. 2 months later, my mother had another fall. The doctor said she needed constant supervision. I didn't ask Linda. I simply told her my mother was moving in permanently. She laughed at first. "You're joking, right?" I looked at her and said, "No." And this time, she's not sleeping on the floor. When my mother arrived, I carried her suitcase straight to the master bedroom, the room Linda and I had shared for decades. I had already moved my clothes into the guest room. My mother tried to protest, but I wouldn't hear it. "This is your room now," I told her. Linda exploded when she found out. "You're giving her our bedroom? Are you out of your mind?" I looked at her and answered calmly, "It was never really ours. It was built with money my father left me. Money my mother helped save." 3 days later, Linda received a certified letter from my lawyer. The house no longer belonged to us. It belonged to the trust. She had 30 days to decide if she wanted to remain in the home under the new arrangement or leave. She chose to leave. The confrontation happened in the kitchen. She threw the letter on the table and screamed at me for nearly an hour. I didn't raise my voice once. "You stayed silent when she told my mother to sleep on the floor," I finally said. "You stayed silent every time she was disrespected in this house. So I stayed silent too, until I could do something that actually mattered." She tried to fight it in court. She tried to claim emotional distress. She even tried to contact my children and turn them against me. But the documents were airtight. The trust was legal. And my children, after hearing the full story, chose to stay out of it. 6 months later, I sold the big suburban house. My mother and I moved into a smaller, single-story home near the ocean. It had wide hallways for her walker, a beautiful garden, and a bedroom with a view of the water. For the first time in 43 years, our house felt like a home. My mother lived another 2 years. She passed away peacefully in her sleep at the age of 86. In her final months, she never once had to sleep on the floor. She had a warm bed, fresh flowers on her nightstand, and her son reading to her every evening. Before she died, she held my hand and whispered, "You didn't have to do all this for me." I smiled and said, "Yes, I did. I should have done it the first night you arrived." Some people say that silence is a virtue, but I've learned that silence can also be a cage. I stayed silent for too long, through disrespect, through cruelty, through the slow erosion of the woman who gave me everything. But when I finally broke that silence, I made sure it counted. My mother never had to sleep on the floor again, and neither will I.